I used to, when the Paul brothers first came on the scene, and I was like, dude, I will fight both those guys in the same night in a tournament. If I get beat the first fight, maybe it won't happen. But
Yeah.
and people think I'm crazy, dude. I do this for a living. 6 different times I've fought multiple times in a night. Like, think about that with Glory Kickboxing. 4 of those times I fought 3 times in one night, and 4 of those times I've won the whole tournament. So for me to say I want to fight them in the same night, that's not a stretch of any imagination whatsoever. Like, I do this. That's what I do.
I don't think they'll do it, man. They need somebody that's like,
you know what,
smaller than them and slower and older. And it's like,
he's a money printing machine, man. I don't know how he's getting away with it, but people are eating it up. And I'm gonna be honest, Jake Paul's legit. Dude, he's legit. And not only does he have the resources, he's committing the time. And I mean, the guy's becoming a pretty decent fighter. So by no means am I, overlooking this guy or talking smack on him. More credit to him, man. He's kind of changing the game. He's elevating it for all of us fighters. Bigger paydays, more eyes on all of it.
I love the fact too that he's kind of steered away from the influencer boxing. Like, it's not just an influencer matchup. You know what I mean? Like, it's legitimate boxing matches going into his, like.
Yeah, I mean, he started with the influencer, and now, I mean, Anderson Silva, that one surprised me. I thought Silva would get him, didn't. Mike Tyson, come on, man. I
thought
knew
Platinum
Jake
Mike
Paul
Perry was gonna fucking get him, but man, it's such
Jake
a size
Paul's just
difference.
too big and strong, man, and legit, and he's pretty damn quick. And the Tyson fight, dude, I didn't even want to see that. I knew Mike Tyson was gonna lose.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that Jake Paul went in there and he probably would have knocked him out. But once it was like a competitive fight, a little bit back and forth, I felt like he kind of held back a little bit. I feel like he didn't want to disrespect Tyson and completely go for the kill later in the rounds.
I agree.
And people call me crazy. I really think if he wanted to, he could have taken him out.
I don't know for sure, too. Somebody was telling me, I mean, boxing, it has some crazy contracts. It's not like the UFC, like just get in the cage and see who wins, right? Like, there's all kinds of crazy like stipulations down to the gloves and like all kinds of stuff. And I heard that there was some bullshit about a first round, like couldn't be a first round knockout on Tyson's end or something. It's like, well, fuck, man. Like,
and think of all that money they cashed in. It's
dude,
we're just
who
gonna
cares?
Go play spar for these people.
Yeah. Did you see him at the White House a couple weeks ago?
I did not. No, I
like
missed that.
Tyson was on
for the inauguration.
Paul's,
yeah, I did. I saw some of
shoulders.
that. Yeah.
Like, they're boys,
absolutely. Well, then you saw Conor McGregor and the Paul brothers on the same bus. Dude, now there's a talk with McGregor, which I think the UFC turned it down, but McGregor was going to box Logan Paul.
Oh, really?
And in Saudi Arabia for like $250 million. I'm pretty sure. And he's still under contract with the UFC. When you're under contract, they have to approve everything. You're a guy like me.
That's the only way he fought Mayweather, right?
Yeah, they approved it, and I guarantee the
UFC.
Yeah, the UFC got a cut, no doubt. I guarantee it. That's the only way they'll let you, which I'm surprised they didn't get into that. I know Dana's wanting to get into boxing, and the UFC.
He should just create his own boxing. Like,
he got the power side. Whatever he creates, it's gonna
kickboxing. Like, now that Glory's kind of out of the country, and I just had Chris Lockhart in, and we were talking about that. Like,
Lockhart's a good dude.
ONE FC is such a badass organization. Like, what they're doing, but they're only here like once or twice a year.
I know. Kickboxing has never taken off in America. It in the 80s it tried. It never got traction. Even my stint with Glory, they tried finding the American guys. I was the American guy. Went on the scene and they were really riding me, and it just never took off here. But then I go to Zagreb, Croatia, and I fought. When I fought Alex Pereira, March 8th, 2014, there was I think 15,000 people, maybe 20,000 people in this arena. Yeah, and then you fight here in the States, there's like 3,000 people.
It's crazy.
Just massive difference. I fought in Tokyo, Japan with Glory, packed arena, 13,000 people. Fought at the Hard Rock Casino in Vegas, there's like 2,000 people. It never takes off in America. I don't get it.
I think one of the best things about the UFC is the way that they promote it, because like Bellator and all these other fight organizations, this is no knock on them, man. I got a lot of friends we both have a lot of mutual friends that fight for different organizations. Yeah. But unless it's an LFA fight or a UFC fight, they're hard to find, man. Like, you literally have to go out of your way to get on the internet and try to figure out like what's going on or where or when or
for sure.
BKFC's been pretty good about it, but I don't even consider that. That's like its own little league of.
It is. It still has a long way to go, but
Yeah.
who knows, man? Like Chris Camozzi, the champion of the world, the bare knuckle champion at light heavyweight or cruiser. I don't know what they call their weight classes, but
Yeah.
you know, early on, you don't see a lot of people like think that's cool or want to be that yet. Not yet, because it's so new. But maybe a decade from now, kids will grow up wanting to be a bare knuckle boxing champion.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, we're gonna see. I don't know.
Sure, Chris made a bunch of Denver kids want to do it.
Yeah,
you know
exactly,
what I mean?
Right? It's just so brutal. I'll never, man. When I first saw it, I'm like, no way would I ever do that. And then I went to one of Chris's fights, like I don't know, one of his first bare knuckle. I'm like, and I'm sitting there right by the ring. I'm like, dude, I could totally do this. Like I liked it. Like I think I could, you know. Well, then I went to his last title fight and I rewatched. I'm like, man, I don't think I could. I did it's so brutal. For one, dude, my hands. Like just punching bare hands, my hands are so messed up from the years of training. Like the fingers hurt, and I just feel like my hands would get busted up every time. I'd break a hand every single fight, and the cuts, the Camozzi's dodged some bullets. I mean, he makes it look easy every time, but he's never cut up. You see all these other guys come out of there just brutal.
He's a fucking animal, dude. That was a fun
built
night.
for it.
That was fun hanging out with you that night too.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
That was super rad. Yeah, I'm so happy for him, man. First off, but like, he's just a different breed of. I think to do bare knuckle, you have to be a little bit crazy or something. And like, not that Chris is crazy, but it's like his fight with Hunt, man, was crazy. I mean, blow for blow, like that was a gnarly fight, and Chris came out of it pretty much
unscathed.
He was a little bruised up,
a little bit, but not as
dude. He
bad
flew
as
to
you see
like
the other
Whitney's
guys.
wedding the next,
Oh, yeah.
one of her family members' wedding, like the next day or something. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, man. He's just good, different. He's just built different.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's crazy? Chris and I fought each other today.
I saw
January
you post
28th, 2012. And it's just amazing to kind of see it all come full circle. I remember I made my UFC debut, UFC 137, October 2011, and Chris fought on that card. We both fought on that card that night. And I remember meeting him, and it's kind of, we just instantly hit it off. You know, now Chris and I are best buddies. Like, he's a great dude, man. I love that guy. And, we have just a really great friendship, and I could tell when I first met him. You know, when you first meet somebody and you just kind of know. Well, that's how I think we both felt. We were both like really cool around each other, just felt really comfortable, relaxed, and we both lost that night. And my buddy Brian Foster, he was like, "Man, you know who you're gonna fight next?" I'm like, I didn't even want to think about it. I'm all upset. He's like, "You're gonna fight Chris Camozzi." And I'm like, dude, what? Shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, a couple months later, UFC's calling, and you're going to fight Chris Camozzi, and it's a job, right? They offer you a contract. We both signed on the dotted line. We fought today 13 years ago. Pretty crazy.
That is wild, man. I think I remember watching that fight.
Yeah, UFC on Fox too.
Didn't one of you guys like break one of your fingers or something?
Yeah,
was it Chris or
so
you?
I broke my right hand. I still, it's still swelled up to this day. And then,
little memento.
Yeah, man, it was at the United Center in Chicago. It was an awesome fight, back and forth. At the very end of the first round, Chris also did this to my nose. The only time I broke my nose, Chris broke it. Dropped me. It was like a flash knockout. I hopped right back up. So I probably gave him round one. I thought I won round two. It was a really competitive fight. And at the end of round two, I felt like the fight getting a little easier. I could tell he was like, had something going on. And sure enough, he like broke, I don't know if he broke his finger or like snapped his finger in half. And then in the middle of the round, I remember I was watching him and he was like real concerned. And I remember he like popped it back in place. He's like, "I'm good." I was like, "Oh shit." And I was like, so then he comes back out and he was good to go. And it was a very competitive third round. And then he ended up getting me in a guillotine choke, man.
That's wild, man. And boys, today, you guys were just hog hunting like last week, right?
So,
or
dude,
something?
that's how I moved out to Colorado. So I was born and raised in Fort Morgan. But when I was in junior high, 6th grade, just shy, my family moved to Central Illinois.
Okay.
And then throughout my fight career, I ended up fighting Chris, and we actually, from that first card we were on together, UFC 137, I think we exchanged numbers, and we were just kind of talking. Well, then we signed up to fight each other, and then we fought. And then afterwards, we kind of kept in touch. You know, we were both fight fans. I'd watch him fight. I congratulate him, and he watched me fight. I won the Glory Kickboxing Tournament in Tulsa, Oklahoma. 3 fights one night, and it was kind of a big deal. It was like Glory was just getting on the scene, and
well, you guys were training out of the same gym too for a while, right? At Factory X.
So I came on the scene. I had those 3 fights. Kamosi saw it. He's a huge fan. He hit me up. He's like, dude, that's so badass. He's like, congratulations. He's like, you got to come out here and train, man. And that was February 2013. I think just a couple months later, I came out to Denver and I stayed with Chris. I started training at Factory X, and a few months after that, my wife and I moved here. Right after we got married.
Badass. I didn't know that whole story.
Been at Factory X ever since. And unfortunately, Chris has moved on, and, relationships happen, things happen. And, so we're no longer trained together, but I would really like to here. We're both at the end of our careers. In the big picture, we still got a lot of fight left in us, but in the big picture, at the end of our careers, I'd love to get back on the mats with them. And dude, we were just in Oklahoma, another kind of full circle deal. My buddy, Brian Foster, an amazing dude, amazing fighter. Yeah. His boys are fighting now. I watched his son.
His kids are fighting?
His kids. His baby. I've always known him as Baby. I watched this kid be born. And his other kid, Alex, who's making his pro debut here in like a week. I think it made his pro debut next week. Wow. And, he was like 3 or 4 running on the mats when I met Brian Foster. But anyway, Chris and I took a trip to Oklahoma. Brian had some fights. His baby, who's now 17, had his first MMA fight and looked amazing. Look, he's just a little Brian Foster Jr., just a little animal, man. And looked like it was one of those moments, had tears in my eyes. And watching Brian Foster coach him and corner him and watch him do everything to a T and just fight like a Foster. I'm like, holy crap, here we go. You got the next generation of Foster kids coming up.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, Chris and I were there. We were special guests at his event. We commentated on the fights. And
really?
Yeah, we did an Oklahoma hog hunt, the backwoods Oklahoma.
I saw that
hunt, which
post,
was
man.
Epic, man.
You got to pull up Dustin's Instagram because I want to see the photo of you and Chris fighting or whatever you posted today.
It's on my story.
Yeah.
And it popped up on my Amazon photos. I got Amazon photos, and it popped up a memory. You have to actually click on my story, but popped up as a memory. I'm like, so then I text Chris. I was like, dude,
there it is. Look at how young you guys were.
Oh,
man.
bro,
Chris doesn't even
crazy.
look the same, man. He looks like a 14-year-old boy.
Well, and then look at Dana White too.
Yeah,
I would say everybody in this photo has aged nicely. Dana's taking care of himself. Chris and I are still going strong. I mean, that's crazy, man. 12 years ago.
You guys look better now than you did then. I think so.
Years ago. Yeah, it's 2025. Holy shit, 13 years ago, Chris. Yeah. What are you doing, man?
It's hard to do math, you know? And